Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another breakdown and predictions video, and this week we got UFC 323, which is the last pay-per-view of 2025, and the last pay-per-view for now that we know of ever in UFC history, because going to Paramount, they're not going to be on pay-per-view anymore from what I understand, so fairly historic fight card here, and really good fight card all throughout. Some bangers on the card. We got two title fights in the main event, or in the main and co-main events. So it's going to be a great night of fights, and let's get into it because the first fight is a banger, man. I mean, we got Muhammad Naimov. He's taking on Myron Santos. Two strikers. I think Naimov obviously is going to look to mix it up here, but predominantly they both like to keep it on the feet and use their stand-up. And Naimov, I think, is the better mover. He's probably a little bit faster, but he's going to have to close the distance in this one. Myron Santos is going to be longer. He's just a little sharper. He throws straighter. So even though the reach is only 2 inches, it's going to be a little bit longer just the way that they fight, because Myron accentuates his reach a little bit better. And Naimov, if he wins this fight, I think he's going to have to land a big shot early, and it's going to be hard to get Myron Santos out of there, but if he can rock him, get a takedown, get some control, then potentially he could get Myron Santos a little bit frenetic and chasing him and pull him into strikes, maybe get another takedown and bank another round and win the fight in that manner. But I think if Myron Santos can manage that early going, the first 3-4 minutes, can get his range, find the timing on Naimov, because Naimov is a good striker. He's good at darting in, darting out. He has those crazy spinning attacks, and he's dangerous. But Myron Santos is very, very economical, walks you down, kind of a plotter, but he's good at sliding in on a range. He'll throw nice, long, straight punches, good teeps, and a very powerful guy. He's sometimes someone that will, let the fight be closer than it needs to be, but ultimately he can get the job done, and he's gotten some sick knockouts. He's really good in the pocket. I think he's going to have a major advantage if he can get into the pocket with Naimov or back him up towards the cage. And Santos, his grappling should be improving. He did this fight camp with the Fighting Nerds, so they could potentially help him a little bit more with his footwork and movement, things like that. So I think that ultimately, if you look at the odds here, it's probably correct where you see Santos at minus 250, minus 275 range, because I think that's fairly accurate, but there's probably not much value on there. I do ultimately think this fight's likely going to go the distance. If Santos knocks him out, that would be impressive. We've seen Naimov hurt before in fights, but he's been able to go the distance and beat some really good guys. He's on a good run right now, so I think he's going to be fairly difficult to get out of there. So you see some plus money on some books. Maybe that could be the way to go on this one, or put Santos in some parlays. But I think he's going to be someone that should be able to get the victory in this one, even though he's facing a fairly tough opponent. I think that he's the side in that fight. And continuing on, we got Merab Dvalishvili. He's taking on Antonio Tricoli, and kind of a lower level fight on the card, and gigantic favorite in Merab Dvalishvili over Tricoli. I believe he's ballooned to now he's minus 1,500 on one book. So he's becoming one of the biggest favorites in UFC history going into the fight. And ultimately, I do kind of agree with that, because I feel as if Tricoli is not really a great fighter. He's a very good grappler. He's huge. I mean, you see his height right there, 6'5", and he's explosive. So he could, fire some nice straight punches down the pipe early when he's fresh, get the body lock, kind of bully guys to the mat if they're not ready for it, and get a quick submission, get guys out of there, look like a beast. But if he is facing someone that knows how to wrestle, he doesn't really have the ability to take them down that good. He always wrestles upper body. It's kind of sloppy. And with Mansour Abdulmalik, he has solid wrestling. He could move around a lot better than Chikoli, who's kind of a stuck in the mud type of fighter, up and down like a board, not very mobile, stands right in front of you. So he could pull him into shots, and he's not going to be wild and make any mistakes as we've seen. We've seen him also, which I like, come through adversity. He fought Nick Klein, and he ran into a big shot. He was wobbled really badly, but he was able to come back and get the victory there. His last fight, it kind of showed the inexperience that he still has, even though he's been training and in the gym for a long time, things like that. He was fighting too pretty of a fight. He probably was going to get the victory regardless, and ended up no contest, obviously, because it was 1-1 going into the third on all three cards, I believe. And there was some rule where they weren't supposed to judge the third round since it didn't go the distance, didn't go the full round. So they made it a no contest because it would have been a draw. So even though Malik got his hand raised, he does have, the one draw now. But ultimately, he's still undefeated. And the question in this fight, I believe, is more if it's going to go the distance, which I think at some point Abdulmalik will find the finish, but I kind of tend to lean towards the over here at plus 160s, like plus 166, 161. I believe that ultimately Abdulmalik, he likes to get his reads and fight, off the back foot early, and if he can get a takedown and get on top, I think that he could pound his way to victory, but he could maybe be a little bit tentative to wrestle and grapple here because Chikoli has a threat there, and he knows that on the feet he's going to be significantly better. So I could see it potentially being early on, not much action from either guy in the stand-up, and maybe Abdulmalik is landing a little bit more, touching him up like we saw Shara Bullet do, and getting him out of there after 7.5 minutes, maybe late second, third round early. He went to the second round in a few fights now. He was going into the third versus Cody Brundage, so he's shown that he can go longer. It's not like he's been bulldozing everybody now that he's gotten to this higher level. So I think the over is maybe the play here. When you look at the money line, it's unbettable. So yeah, I kind of feel like Abdulmalik will find the finish. But even when you look at that price, like him to win outside the distance, minus 450, the best price you can get, minus 700 on Bet Online. But even my KO minus 400. It's just, there's not really much value there. Chikoli did get subbed his last fight, but that would just be value hunting more than anything. If you want to try to grab that 700, plus 700, maybe he could somehow get a sloppy guillotine or something like Tresean Gore did if Chikoli's just super tired. But yeah, I think Abdulmalik is that big of a favorite for a reason. He's going to get the job done, but it might take a little bit longer than the bookies think. So that's kind of the only angle I could think of on that fight, and I do think Abdulmalik will win via knockout. And this next one, this is an interesting one, man. With Iro Barianowski taking on Ibo Aslan, Iwo versus Ibo. And Aslan, when he came into the UFC, he got a couple nice knockouts. He didn't beat anyone that was that good, obviously, with Cerquera, with Anton Turkali, but he was like a touted prospect. He was someone that the UFC was pushing. They gave him Iwan Kutelaba, which that was supposed to be his springboard into the rankings, and he fumbled the bag on that one. And then his last fight, he really, really did poorly against Billy Elikana. Didn't let his hands go, didn't do much of anything, and took the L there. So 2 losses, and now his stock is, free-falled, where he's becoming the guy that's getting fed to I believe, someone the UFC wants to do well, and the Polish debutant here, Iwo Baranowski, who's undefeated. He's 6-0. He just beat Muhammad Ali on the Contender Series in 20 seconds. And he has a lot of amateur experience as well, even though he has 6 first-round finishes as a pro. He's had almost 20 amateur fights. And a lot of those amateur fights were at heavyweight as well. And I believe that light heavyweight is his weight division. He had some fights where he worked really hard to get takedowns as an amateur, and he would get reversed when he went to mount and things like that, and was just a little bit too small. He had a terrible showing in one fight where, not a terrible showing necessarily, but terrible ending where he got some takedowns. He was doing well. He did get reversed a few times. He went for an arm bar that he almost got but failed, and he was on top in the next round. He got another takedown, but you could tell he was just totally exhausted. He was done, and he was getting elbowed while he was in his opponent's full guard, just trying to bury his head in the guy's chest, and they stopped the fight. So he can break, obviously. We've seen it happen before, but when you look at this from a stylistic perspective, it's interesting. If Aslan can get out of the first, 3-4 minutes, which is usually what you say about Aslan's opponents, then, he becomes a live underdog in this one, because we've seen now that he's kind of in that in-between area in his career where came into the UFC, was a knockout artist, right? He was someone that got the job done really quickly, didn't waste a lot of time, and now he has had a couple fights, or at least his last fight, where I believe he tried to do the opposite. He tried to pace himself, and he didn't do anything. It went to decision. You could tell that he had energy at the end of the fight, and he just let himself down. He didn't let it go. So he needs to find that happy median where he can pace himself for the full distance, but he's still Ibo Aslan. He's still that aggressive guy. He's still going for the knockout, and he is still, showing his form in there. So if he could do that and, stuff some takedowns, Iwo goes balls to the wall, man. I mean, the guy is bobbing and weaving side to side. He's slipping and throwing a nasty straight punches in combination, really fast, super fast double leg, and really aggressive on top. He tries to get into mount immediately and pound you out. If you give the back, he'll flatten you out, go for the finish there as well. And he's just been able to bully a lot of guys, and he's shown power on the feet too with that 20-second knockout. He's dropped other opponents as well, so he's really fast and just goes out there and tries to finish you quickly. But I've seen him when he settled in a one fight against a guy that didn't even look very good, and he decided to strike a little bit after he blew a lot of energy trying to grapple in the first, minute and a half, 2 minutes of the fight, and the opponent got back up to his feet. And his striking defense looked kind of janky. So I do think that Aslan, if you could put that pressure on him after he shows some resistance in the grappling, you could maybe crumble Iwo and finish him on the feet. But if Iwo can get a couple takedowns early, he could, get Ibo Aslan out of there quick, like we saw Iwan Kutelaba do. So I do think this one can go either way. Aslan is someone that, is a lot more familiar fighting in Vegas and everything like that. So I do believe that's somewhat of an advantage for him. But I just favor the trajectory that Iwo's on right now. I feel like he has multiple paths to victory, with potentially, if he has the cardio, grappling to a decision, getting an early knockout like we just saw him do, or getting an early finish on the mat. So I think Ibo's kind of path to victory is Iwo Burinuski gassing out, which you can't really bank on that ultimately. So I think that Iwo is the more skillful guy and will likely be able to get the victory. But it's kind of a pass fight for me. I don't think that he warrants being minus 185. It's a big spot for him, man. UFC debut, fighting on a pay-per-view. I believe that it should be a little bit closer odds-wise. Ibo has a lot more experience in terms of being in these type of positions in the UFC. But I do believe he probably should be a favorite, minus 140-ish. So you could say there's slight value on Aslan, but I didn't end up playing him, or, I don't think that he's really worthy of a bet ultimately. And maybe live bet him if you see that he gets back up to his feet. Maybe Iwo's looking a little bit tired, then put some money on him if the line's good. But other than that, I think the under maybe at minus 165, just because Aslan maybe comes in here and doesn't want a repeat of his last performance, tries to kill Iwo in the first round, and that'll be him getting the early knockout or him getting taken down and finished. So that under, I think, is a decent price there at minus 165, especially when you look at other books that have it at a lot higher price, like minus 200, minus 210. So I think that's a fairly good play there on Bet Online. And I'm going to say Iwo Baranowski wins via first round finish, whether it's a TKO or submission on the ground. So I think that he's going to be able to get a quick takedown like usual, run him through the ringer a little bit, and then get him out of there. So give me Iwo Baranowski. And this next fight, Edson Barbosa versus Jalen Turner. Two flakes here at this point in their careers. It's hard to say that about Edson, but, at his age, I believe that he's kind of moved into that category. And Jalen Turner, he literally quit the sport a few months ago after some bad performances, getting submitted by Ignacio Bahamondes, and he's back a few months later. So that's always a little bit sketchy. I mean, maybe he got the bug again, but obviously, he has some, thoughts about not fighting anymore. And I think Edson, even though he's older, is still very, very willing and loves getting in the cage and throwing down. But you could see that his brain doesn't do what his body wants it to do. I mean, he doesn't pull the trigger anymore. He's not as explosive. He doesn't take shots as good. I mean, you could see, even though he's still there. I mean, you could argue he won the fight versus Jakar close, but he is getting rocked in a lot of fights. You could tell that he's taking a lot of damage in his face and things like that as well, and he just doesn't do as much as he used to. And Jalen Turner, for all his warts and everything that's negative about him, I think that Edson's going to try to leg kick him, which we've seen Jalen have issues with that before. Edson obviously has the power to knock Jalen out. We've seen Jalen get knocked out stiff in previous fights, even though it hasn't happened in a long time. But he's still a freak on the feet. He's extremely fast, long, rangy, nasty teeps to the body, straight punches, huge power. And I just think if he touches that chin early on Edson, he could find the off switch and put him out. So I lean towards Jalen Turner in round one. But if it becomes a dogfight, I would rather be holding that plus 260 Edson ticket. So it's one of those fights where it's a pass at minus 310 for Turner. If you want to, have some fun, bet Barbosa at plus 260. You might get a barn burner decision win for Barbosa, but I do believe that Turner has a decent chance to get him out of there early. And you look at that plus 160 is plus 175. I think that that's decent there. I think that you could, maybe put a bet on Edson, put a bet on Jalen Turner round one, and you could come out good on either side. So I think Jalen Turner will be able to come back and be victorious, but hard to be confident in a minus 300 that's returning from a retirement. But continuing on, we got someone that might be close to retirement, and it's kind of crazy because he's only 31, 32, Marvin Vettori, but 1-4 in his last 5 fights. This is a must win for him. He has to, I don't think they'll cut him. He's just a huge name, but man, I mean, how many more losses in a row can he take, or just kind of this streak can go on where he's not being very successful. He hasn't won a fight in years. So he needs this one, man. It's a step down. You could make, some excuses for him now where he was fighting some really high level competition like Brendan Allen in his last fight. And he did fairly well. It wasn't like he's getting blown out, but it's put up or shut up time. He's fighting a guy that's not a known commodity. He has some sweet knockouts. He has hardcore fans behind him, Bruno Ferreira, but it's not a name like Marvin's been fighting recently, and he needs to go and put it on him to show that he's still a top 15 guy. But Bruno Ferreira is going to be training extremely hard. This is the best fighter that he's ever been pitted against in the UFC. You could argue Gregory Rodriguez. I actually do believe Gregory's better than Marvin at this point, but Gregory's never reached the heights that Marvin has, like fighting for the UFC title and everything like that. So it's a huge fight for Bruno. And man, I mean, it's the indestructible object against the freaking atomic bomb, and Bruno Ferreira. So something's got to give. Bruno Ferreira goes out there, he detonates on guys' chins, and they get put to sleep. And Marvin Vettori, it looks like you can hit him with a baseball bat, and he's going to be standing right in front of you. So is he going to be able to take those shots from Bruno Ferreira? Because Ferreira is going to land some heaters early. Marvin is just too hittable, and on the feet he's so basic. I mean, he just comes forward. He will try to kind of shoe shine some ugly hook punches, body head inside, but he's really just looking to throw 1-2s, and he's kind of abandoned his wrestling. He doesn't really look to get takedowns that much. His wrestling defense and his grappling look good versus Brendan Allen. I mean, he got taken down. He scrambled really effectively. He was able to get back up to his feet pretty good and looked really strong. So, man, I mean, you should go back to your grappling in this one if you're Marvin Vettori. We've seen Bruno Ferreira struggle in a fight with Abus Magomedov where he was getting taken down and he gassed out, he got submitted. And I believe that Marvin is a lot better grappler than a guy like Abus, but Bruno's definitely learned from that. He's came back, he's gotten 2 submission victories in a row himself, and the guy's just extremely dynamic. He's young. You could see that he's very motivated, dedicated. He's ready to move into the next phase of his career. And Marvin is kind of on the way out. So it's looking like Bruno Ferreira should get the win, but you see the odds, it's a pick'em because Marvin has just been that guy. He's been in the rankings for years. So this is the test for Bruno ultimately. And I think he's going to pass it, man. I feel like Marvin, if he could put the pressure on Bruno, throw some straight punches, make it more of a boxing fight, not let Bruno have that space and ability to explode, and then get it to the ground, he could find the finisher. He could make Bruno tired, hesitant, and win a decision. But I just think he's taken too much damage. He hasn't really shown his wrestling recently, and I think Bruno's a hard guy to close the distance on without getting clipped with heavy shots. He's going to be hard to take down, and I just think he's going to be ready for Marvin Vettori. There's so much tape on him. He knows what he's going to be dealing with, and I think he could find the first round knockout and, really make a splash, become the first guy to finish Marvin Vettori, maybe flash knock down him and then submit him or something crazy. But I think he could win a decision as well. Just big first round, maybe edge the second. Maybe Marvin has, the third round or has some moments, maybe wins a round, but Bruno still takes the victory. And I think as the underdog, I think Bruno Ferreira is a good play on this card. I think that he's the more athletic, explosive guy. He's going to be able to land. I think that he could, grapple with Vettori. I think that he's improving in that area. And I think that his confidence is going to be a lot higher than Vettori's. If he can go out there and have a quick start, I think that he could win this fight going away. So give me Bruno Ferreira, and I think that he is potentially live to become the first man to finish Marvin Vettori. But moving on to the prelims, from the early prelims to the regular prelims now with Nazim Sadykhov and Ziam, and this is a sick fight, man. I mean, 2 dark horses in the division. You see Nazim Sadykhov looking super confident in that picture, ready to go. And but man, this is a interesting one, man. I feel like I was liking Nazim Sadykhov before I really dug into it because I just really think this guy has a ton of heart. He has good defense, and he's able to block a lot of shots, take shots on the guard. He will, absorb some strikes because he kind of plays that game where he walks you down. He tries to block and cover everything early, absorb a lot of strikes, and then when you get tired, he puts it on you. So some shots can slip through, and we saw like Slava Borshev, if you can keep the pace for 3 rounds and don't get tired and move around, you can kind of piece him up a little bit. And Slava had to survive a huge moment where Nazim rocked him and then almost knocked him out with the head kick, so that's why it was a draw. But that's Nazim's style. He's southpaw, but he could switch stances. He's slick. He wants to walk you down, cut the cage off, effective defense, keep in your face, break you mentally with this presence, and then land that big shot and get you out of there. And on the mat, even though he has okay wrestling, I think maybe he's going to try to wrestle Ziam, but it's going to be hard. And this is, another opportunity for Vola's camp to, dig in to a fair Ziam and try to kind of dissect him a little bit more. So they're going to have some ideas of what to do, but Ziam's exponentially better in every fight. He's improving rapidly. He's young. I think that he's up-and-comer in this division. Super long, lanky. He has a 6-inch reach advantage, which I think is going to be significant here. And I just think that Ziam's takedown defense and takedown offense even has improved really, really significantly in recent fights. And on the feet, he has that style where he can stick move. He can roll with strikes. He can be evasive, touch Nazim from a distance and, hit, not get hit. Sometimes he can kind of back up in a straight line, and that's where Nazim has to capitalize and catch him, rock him, or, time something where he can get a takedown and go to work from the top position. But even though Ziam, he has moments in fights, like even the Mike Davis fight where he was pretty dominant, but the 3rd round he got his back taken and was in a bad position. Like, he'll have these fights where he'll win, like Claudio Puelles, for instance, but there's a lot of bad in there too. But I just feel like he's getting a lot better. He can win close fights. He can get sick knockouts like he got versus Frevola. And Sadykhov's kind of a guy that relies on his opponent slowing down or catching them and knocking them out, which we've never seen Ziam necessarily get rocked or significantly hurt and dropped or anything like that from what I remember in his UFC career. So I think that he's going to be able to win a decision here over Sadykhov. It's going to be a hard-fought fight, but I'm going to go with Ziam to win this one in a battle of really good prospects. And he is a little bit bigger of a favorite than he was earlier in the week. And he opened a minus 200, went to minus 25, minus 125, and now he's like a minus 130, even minus 150 on one book. But I believe Ziam's going to get the job done. And, I don't think the price is terrible. So I think that Ziam isn't a horrible bet. I do believe this fight likely goes the distance at minus 175. And you look at Ziam by decision, you can get plus 130. I think that's not bad either. Sadykhov, I think if he wins, it's going to be a knockout more than likely. So plus 375, plus 380, not terrible. So yeah, I'm going to go with Ziam though. I think that he'll be able to win this battle of 2 up-and-comers there in the lightweight division. And moving it along, we got 2 more established fighters with Maycee Barber and Karine Silva, 2 girls that have been ranked. I believe that Maycee is still ranked. Maybe not. She hasn't fought in quite a long time. But on a 6-fight win streak, someone that was, extremely touted. They, believed she had a chance to be the youngest UFC champion ever, and that's not materialized. And now, she's had some sketchy moments where her last fight, missed weight, had a seizure. She was saying that she woke up in the hospital and thought that she fought. She was asking her camp, like, what happened? Did I get knocked out? Which, you would think it's weight cut related. So hopefully she goes out there, she makes the weight tomorrow and looks good, because if she does, I think this is kind of a tailor-made matchup for her. Karine Silva, she's big for the weight, and she's dangerous. I mean, you see the killer nickname for a reason, but she's a plotter. She's someone that I believe has all her wins via finish, maybe like one decision win. Her last fight she did win via decision, but almost all her wins via finish. And I don't think she's going to finish Maycee Barber unless she just catches her in a submission early when they're both dry. And maybe Maycee just checked out mentally, but if Maycee shows up ready to go, she's still young. I mean, she could still make a lot of money in this sport. She's still close to the belt. She's marketable. So she has everything in front of her if she just puts it together here. And on the feet, she's a good mover. She's good at keeping the range, darting in, darting out with strikes. That's what Silva struggles with. And I think that she can land low kicks if she times them right. She just can't throw, winded up kicks, or she's going to get put on her back and then make a mistake in the scramble. But even if she's taken down, I trust Maycee can avoid being submitted, get back up, and I think she can dominate the clinch. I think that if she gets on top, she can go to work and really do damage there. And Silva's a gasser, and Maycee's someone that's like a third-round demon. So I think that a late finish is on the table for Maycee Barber as well. So it's just going to be up to if Maycee Barber is ready to go out there and perform. And I think that the weight cut and what she looks like on the scale is going to be a big indicator of that. So at minus 190, I think there is value there if you see her look good on the scale and you think that you're getting a good vibe from her and you think that she's going to be able to perform at her optimal, because I think she's a significantly better fighter than Karine Silva. But if she misses weight, then maybe the fight won't even happen, or you go towards the Silva side. But I think Maycee Barber for now, and Maycee Barber round 3 plus 1,800, round 2 plus 1,000. I think that those are things that could happen and have a fairly decent chance. So I got Barber in this one for now, and I think that she will have a good shot at getting the finish there. But continuing on, we get Terrance McKinney and Chris Duncan. This is a fight that has been scheduled to happen a couple of different times, and these guys have been, circling each other for a couple years. And, it seemed like Duncan was kind of moving away in terms of how far he progressed and the opponents that he's beaten in his career. But McKinney's still 4-1 in his last 5. He's fought high-level competition, and I think the UFC decided, it's viable to throw him in there against a guy that's beating high-level opposition and on a good win streak as well. But, this is going to be a great fight. These guys both clashed in the middle early, and that's what you want for a Terrance McKinney victory. I mean, you want a guy that wants to meet in the middle in the beginning of the fight, throw big body kicks, try to dig in and go to war. So I think that McKinney has a really, really good chance to land a big 1-2, land a big step-in knee, big high kick early, get the back on Duncan and, get that finish. But it's the same thing in every McKinney fight. I mean, Chris Duncan is a warrior. The guy's super strong, physical, comes in great shape. He has, elite heart. So McKinney's going to have to choke him out cold, or he's going to have to knock him out unconscious to, get him to stop coming at him. And if he can't do that in the first 5 minutes, we likely know McKinney's pop on his strikes is going to be totally gone. He's going to be on the back foot, getting walked down, and he's going to get knocked out. So the fight could go either way. I mean, McKinney's going to go in there and bulldoze Duncan in round 1, get him out of there, or Chris Duncan's going to survive the early going and, take him out late first, second, and maybe even third. But it's, from a betting perspective, this line has come down, quite a bit from when McKinney was at plus 190. So I think that the value is almost gone on McKinney. I think that this is like a pretty much a pick-up fight with a slight edge towards Duncan. I'm going to go with the underdog McKinney just because I think that from a value perspective, he's the side here, and it's a fight stylistically that I think kind of favors him with a guy like Duncan that isn't that evasive and goes in there and really has to usually take some shots early to get into the fight. And we've seen him get submitted in the first round previously. So slight lean towards Terrance McKinney for me, but one of the harder picks on the fight card, in my opinion, and not one that I'm going to have any action on or really have a great read on. I do think it's going to go under more than likely, and but I'm going to go McKinney. And Grant Dawson versus Manuel Torres in this next one, very similar fight to the McKinney fight. I mean, we got Grant Dawson. This guy is about elite as it gets on the mat. I mean, I think that in terms of acumen and skill, he's levels above like Chris Duncan in the grappling, but super slick, elite back taker. He's someone that has good finishers from the back position, but he's willing to be boring and just hold your back for 3 rounds and get the job done. And I think he has a great mentality for the sport. He's someone that doesn't mind fighting, anyone, and he shows a lot of respect towards all his opponents, even though maybe, with the streak that he's on and, what he's accomplished in the UFC, he could, say, hey, man, why are you giving me Manuel Torres? I deserve someone a lot better, and maybe overlooks him and gets blitzed early, which could happen, but I don't think it's going to be because he overlooks him, because he knows that Manuel Torres is super dangerous. He's willing to take anyone that the UFC gives him, and he just has a good head on his shoulders. But this is a dangerous fight. I mean, Torres, we've seen him get a lot of early finishes. He can get submissions. He can get knockouts, very explosive, dangerous. And I think Dawson's chin is not very good, but Manuel Torres, kind of a guy that's sloppy. He's very, very reliant on his weapons, like his length and his aggressiveness. And I think if you can get him out of the first couple minutes, you're going to have a great chance to win. If Dawson gets one takedown early, a back take, and controls him, I think that he could take a lot of life out of Torres. And I just lean towards Dawson. I just think that he's faced the higher level competition. He's been in there with really dangerous elite strikers and made them look easy. So I just think that he's the better fighter. But if Torres does go out there and clip him early, it wouldn't shock me. So this is another one where I think it's a pass. I don't think that Dawson should be quite as big of a favorite as he is, even though if he wins, he'll probably look like a minus 1,000. But Torres is that dangerous guy, so it could go either way here. I do ultimately kind of like the over at plus 105 since I'm more on the Dawson side of it. I think that Torres probably, will be able to survive on the ground at least for a little while. So, yeah, I think that it could be maybe even Dawson via decision, but I just believe that Dawson should get the job done and get this victory. You'll probably be able to find the submission win, but I just got Dawson there in that fight ultimately for my prediction. And moving on to the main card now, we got the former champ Jan Blachowicz. He's taking on Bogdan Guskov, and Jan, man, this guy's looking to get that victory. I feel like the next win that he gets, he might put the gloves down because he's had some tough luck recently with the judges, man. You have to think that he probably feels in his head he beat Carlos Solberg, he beat Alex Pereira, he beat Magomed Ankalaev, and they're not giving him these wins. And he's just, really wants to go out there and, feel that feeling and getting his hand raised again. So has another opportunity with Bogdan Guskov. I mean, you had him in his last fight with Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg is about to fight for the belt more than likely against Alex Pereira. And Jan Blachowicz made that a razor-thin fight, and he made Oberg extremely tentative. He has a way of making these strikers, elite strikers, look average on the feet. I mean, his defense is very good. He's super durable. He doesn't pull the trigger as much as he used to, but he's still, very technical. He has the leg kicks. He has power in his hands, obviously. He picks the shots well. Good striking cardio. And I think that he's a better grappler in this fight, wrestler, too. He could maybe get some takedowns like he did versus Pereira, and I could see him gassing out Bogdan and finishing him on the mat. And I think that he's going to be very motivated to get the win. I know that he's older and he's kind of, obviously at the tail end of his career, but he's going from fighting champs, number one contenders, to fighting someone that I believe is not even close to that level of Bogdan Grad. I mean, with Grad, we got a guy that he's dangerous. He holds his hands low. He's very explosive. He'll move around. He's dynamic. He can, pull you into some big strikes early and put you out. But I think if Alex Pereira, if Izzy, if all these guys aren't able to find the chin on Yan, unless Yan just comes in here and he's like really pissed off about the decision losses, or he falls off a cliff athletically, he's not going to get clipped and put to sleep by Bogdan. And I think that he has the conditioning advantage. He has the striking technicality advantage. He has the grappling and wrestling advantage. And I think that Yan can get this guy out of there and get the monkey off his back and get this victory. So I'm leaning towards Jan Blachowicz, man. I know that he's older. He hasn't won in a long time, but I just think he's levels above this guy. And if he loses, that would be really unfortunate, man, because I don't think that Yan should be losing to this level of opponent. But minus 130, I think that's a good price for Yan. I would put him, closer to minus 175-ish. Even though he's older, I think that he wins this fight, a decent majority of the time. And, I think it's going to end inside the distance, but, that price is probably fairly accurate. I don't really think there's a lot of value there. But I got Jan Blachowicz, I'll say round 2 finish. And continuing on, we got this next fight. We got Payton Talbott versus Henry Cejudo. Really strange matchup here. I mean, Talbott, he had that awful performance to start the year versus Raoni Barcelos, where got taken down a million times. He kept trying to go belly down to get back up to his feet or scramble, and he felt comfortable defending the chokes, but he just got out-grappled, and then he was tired. At the end of the fight, he almost got saved by the bell, but, he's still young. He came back. He got the win versus Felipe Lima, where he was able to out-grapple him, and I think kind of showed everyone that he is a good grappler. It's just his wrestling is kind of subpar defensively. He's a good scrambler, and he's really big. So if you take him down, he'll scramble back up. He can reverse you. And when he gets on top, he's pretty good on top. But really, when you look at Payton Talbott, you know what he wants to do. He wants to pressure you. He has elite presence in the cage. He'll back you up. He'll put some straight punches on you. He'll put some kicks on you. He has sick power. And he does a really good job of just finding his strikes with the long weapons. And he has great eyes. He'll pull counter. And I think that this is a good matchup for him in the stand-up for sure, because Henry Cejudo, he's still really good. Obviously, this is his last fight, apparently. And you see Cejudo, I mean, this guy has a lot of things going on outside of fighting, where he's got the podcast with Usman. He's got the thing with Moneybird going on. He's got a lot of businesses. And I feel like he's definitely not as invested as he used to be. But Henry's like an elite competitor, Olympic gold medalist. You know that he's going to go out there and pull all the stops when he gets in the cage. It's just if you aren't prepared, you didn't do the runs, you're going to gas out regardless, even if you want to push super hard. So I don't think Henry's going to quit, but he could maybe, just not be, as, ready as Payton Talbott is going to be. But Henry's going to work the leg kicks. Obviously, you'd think he's going to try to mix in the takedowns, but I don't think he'll be able to hold Talbot down, really. And I think that, mixing it up will be smart just to kind of get Talbott thinking. But I don't know if he's going to want to push his cardio like that. And I feel like the way that Henry, has that wide karate stance, high chin, against Talbott, who's really long, straight punches, I feel like he could find that and connect early and often and just land a lot more on Cejudo. Cejudo is a guy that has elite chin. I don't know if he'll get knocked out, but I just think Talbot will land more and be more effective. So I'm taking Talbot here. I think he'll be able to dog it out too if it becomes a harder fight. I just think that he wants it more at this point in his career. And give me Payton Talbot to defeat the former champion Henry Cejudo in this matchup. But the odds are a little bit off, man. I wouldn't line Talbot as that big of a favorite. I think that's a lot of that is built into the retirement narrative because Henry is still pretty decent against Song. And I don't think that Talbot should be that big of a favorite. It might even be like a 29-28. I don't think Henry will get blown out. He's always going to be competitive. But I do think that Talbot will find the victory ultimately. So I like the Talbot side. I don't want to value hunt with Henry. But give me Payton Talbot in that one. I think it likely goes the distance, which that's at a minus 200 price. So I think that's, pretty indicative of what's going to happen. And I think that Payton Talbot wins via decision there. But next fight, we got another former champion in Brandon Moreno taking on a new guard fighter, Tatsuro Taira. And really intriguing matchup here. I feel like everyone is talking about the grappling of Taira, and that's obviously his bread and butter. He has the back takes, super long, rangy, his elite control when he can get on top of you. He's just moving all around you. He's great transitions and, he just beats you up until he finds that submission, really nasty ground and pound. So he's a great fighter on the mat. But Brandon Moreno, this guy's a Houdini on the ground. We've seen so many elite guys take down Moreno, have his back with the body triangle. We saw Pantoja and Jussier Formiga get Brandon Moreno's back with the body triangle locked in, and Moreno was able to scramble into the top position. Deiveson Figueiredo as well. This guy's ability to scramble is elite. No one's out-controlled him in a 3-round fight. Even in his loss to Pantoja for the belt recently, through the first 3 rounds, he had more control time than Pantoja did. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Taira to go out there and just control Brandon Moreno if he's one-track minded, just looking for the takedowns, looking for the back takes. I think that Moreno, if he isn't taking damage on the feet, even if he gets taken down and gets his back taken, he's going to be able to scramble, get on top, probably land the shots and do the damage, get the victory in the round off that, be able to get back up to his feet, be a little bit more conditioned. But Taira, his striking is underrated, man. He has good shot selection. He keeps it basic. He'll throw nice single attacks. He doesn't really open up too much, and he hits really hard. So Moreno, I think that recently, he's been getting hit a little bit more. He's been showing a little bit more damage when he gets hit, even though he's still a granite chin Mexican guy. Maybe Taira could rock him on the feet and use that to get control time. So I think that he has to trust his striking, but it's a hard matchup because he isn't likely going to be able to control Brandon Moreno like he is going to be able to do almost anyone else in the division. And he's going to have to rely on his striking more than usual. And I just believe on the feet, Moreno, he's way more experienced and he's going to be able to throw a lot more volume. He's going to keep the combinations on Taira. And I just think be more aggressive. And I like Brandon Moreno's training situation at this moment where he's training with Mikey Musumeci. And that he's getting some elite tips on how to escape the back position and just grappling in general. and I think he's going to be ready for this matchup and get the job done. So going with the former champ, Brandon Moreno, and I like him at this dog price. I think that's going to continue to rise because he was at, a pick 'em more recently. Now he's getting, back up to around like a plus 110-ish. So especially if Taira looks a little bigger at the weigh-ins, maybe we can get an even better price of Moreno. But I think that Moreno is the side. I think Moreno via decision, maybe late finish, but more than likely a decision. I think Moreno is going to be able to just be the superior martial artist and pick up this victory. So Brandon Moreno is the pick for me in that fight. And the next fight that we got on the card, we got the first title fight, the co-main event with Alexandre Pantoja and Joshua Van. Awesome fight, awesome matchup. We got the dominant champ, one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, in Pantoja. And he's taken out almost all the, elite, older, more experienced fighters. So now he's having to fight a young stud, a guy that doesn't have a ton of experience, has not been a pro for very long, but has just steamrolled his way to the top and just been a dynamic force, fought extremely often and made a name for himself really quickly, has a big fan base, maybe the most popular guy at flyweight in the UFC right now. And yeah, style is sick. You get a fight of the year type of fight with Brandon Royval like that, and you put it down every fight you get, you're going to get a fan base and you're going to get, brought to the top quickly, and that's what happened with Josh Van. So, man, this fight versus Pantoja, should it be happening right now optimally for Josh Van? Frankly, no. I think that Josh Van needed more time before he got to this fight. Can he win? I do think he could win. He, has elite counters. Pantoja, his striking defense, I believe, is better than people think because he does block a lot of strikes. And the way that he's coming forward and just, smothering your shots so, intense, he takes a lot of power off the counters. It's hard to really sit down on your strikes and throw with full power against him. And we've seen him also sit in the pocket and take full bombs from Dawson Figueiredo. So I don't think that Joshua Van is packing that kind of heat. So I don't see him knocking him out with head strikes. I think that if he does, TKO him, it's going to be started off with the body. And, Pantoja's slowing down and then Joshua Van ripping him to the body, hurting him and maybe TKOing him. But I just think that Pantoja, the guy's going to be a little bit bigger in there. He's going to bully him, man. He's going to pressure him. He's going to be super aggressive. I don't think that he's going to give Joshua Van a lot of chances to just sit down and be ready to counter. And I feel like the inexperience and just kind of youthfulness of Joshua Van is going to play to his disadvantage here. I think that Pantoja is going to get the takedowns and, be able to put him on his back pretty easily, man. He's just been able to wrestle guys that are so good. And I don't know if Josh Van has that level of wrestling. And I think that Joshua Van is going to play jiu-jitsu off his back, which is dumb. You've seen him go for leg locks, and you hear him in interviews say that he thinks he could submit Pantoja. So I think he's just going to make mental errors. He's going to engage in the grappling. He's probably going to, make a mistake, let Pantoja get into a dominant position. And I think that he'll be ready, to maybe defend for a little while. But I think he's going to get caught, man. I think he's going to get submitted in the first or second round. And I think he'll be back. He will likely become a UFC champion. But I just think this is a little too much too soon. I think that Pantoja is getting a little disrespected. I don't know if... why so many people... A lot of people are very confident in Van. But I just think that Pantoja... He's one of the best in the world right now. He's like a Merab type of fighter, but he actually gets the finishes, and he's a lot slicker with his grappling, and he has maybe more power on the feet. Pantoja's striking is underrated. He dropped Brandon Moreno. He's never really, been dominated on the feet against anybody, except for maybe Dawson Figueiredo. And I just think that Pantoja is going to go out there, get the first or second round submission. So I like this fight to not go the distance, and I like the under as well, plus 130. And I like Pantoja round one, round two, submission round one, round two. So I just think Pantoja's going to go out there and show levels. I think Josh Van will be back, but I got Pantoja at this moment in their careers. And I think that he's a good bet here on this card. And continuing along, we got Petr Yan. He's going to be taking him on Merab Dvalishvili. And this is another insane matchup. It's a rematch. And hopefully both these guys are healthy coming into this fight. They both had pretty bad hand injuries going into the last one. I think that Petr's was a lot more significant because we saw Merab was still able to, fight fairly normal to how he usually does. And Petr, I think, didn't throw his right hand really much at all. But both guys were injured coming into the first fight. Hopefully they're both healthy and fully ready to go into this next one. And now we got a completely different dynamic. Originally we had Petr Yan, who was the former UFC champion. Merab had never touched gold at that point. Petr had been in a ton of main events. That was the first main event of Merab Dvalishvili's UFC career. And Petr was a pretty significant favorite. But now the line's totally flipped. Petr Yan took that, pretty dominant, lopsided loss to Merab, and he's bounced back and gotten some good victories. But Merab has skyrocketed. He's went out there. He's gotten 4 title defenses this year. This is going to be his 5th potential title defense, breaking a UFC record. And he's become, to most, the best bantamweight of all time. So Petr Yan has a chance to not only get revenge, but leapfrog himself into best of all time talks for that division. So Petr Yan, it's all on the line for him. And I like how he seems cool, calm, and collected this fight week. It seems like he's confident, that he feels that he's ready to go. And Petr Yan is a very cerebral fighter. He goes out there, he gets his reads. He had a full 25 minutes with Merab Dvalishvili, so he's going to have a better idea of what he has to do to get the victory, and maybe he won't be compromised like he was in his last matchup with Merab. And I think that the fight was closer than the scorecards because the first few rounds were competitive. Merab was just outdoing him on the volume, and just the takedown attempts were just coming at such a rate that it was crazy. But Petr was defending almost every takedown. He was landing a decent amount of strikes himself. He could have arguably won the first round. So I think that Petr, with some small adjustments, could be fairly competitive in this fight. And I think that from an odds perspective, it's kind of dog or pass. But it's just super hard to go against Merab at this point. And I think you have to pick him here. I mean, Petr Yan, he has the advantage on the feet. And I think that that's the path to victory for him. If Merab goes in there and, he just dropped Corey Sandhagen. He had a lot of success. He pretty much dominated the stand-up versus Sean O'Malley in their second fight. And if he thinks that he could strike with Petr Yan, give him some openings for some counters, maybe Petr could, land that shot. But Merab, he's someone that is difficult for Petr's style. Petr likes to stick in the pocket. He's not that mobile and evasive like a Corey, like a Sean O'Malley, and he is ready to counterpunch. So Merab could kind of fake up top of the shot. He could land his low kicks, and then he could time the takedowns, get in on the legs fairly easily. And even though Petr has elite takedown defense, I mean, he pretty much shut down Merab's grappling in the first fight. Merab just is a freak. I mean, he attempted 55 takedowns or some crazy shit, and Petr defended almost every one, but he was just defending, and Merab was just doing the offense, and he was trying. So even though Merab was not that successful with the grappling, it was just the overwhelming attempts that made it such a one-sided fight. So Petr needs to figure out how to be more evasive, man, or use knees or something to dissuade the constant takedown attempts. But it's tough with his style to see that happening, and I just don't think that. I think that he'll be more competitive in this one, Maybe it'll even be like a 48-47 type of fight. I think that the plus 9.5 is a good bet on the Petr Yan side on the plus 9.5 on the decision. But I just think that Merab's going to get that decision victory once again, man. He's going to be able to implement a similar game plan. Maybe it won't be quite as dominant, but it's going to be still resulting in a W for the champ, Merab. And I think Pyotr's going to fight pretty valiantly, but come up short. So Merab Dvalishvili, I think, will win via decision in similar fashion, where he goes out there and mixes in takedowns, uses his stand-up leg kicks, his boxing improvements, and gets this decision victory. Yan looked good against Marcus McGee and Yadong, but I think this is just a different matchup and one that's always going to be a difficult one for him. So Merab is the prediction for me, even though I do think when you look at the money line at plus 315, I think that Yan maybe has the value there, but I just think you can't go against Merab at this point, and I think that Merab's going to get the job done. So give me Merab Dvalishvili to win that fight, retain his belt, and still. So I'm going with both champs to retain their belt. Brandon Moreno, Payton Talbott, Jan Blachowicz on the main card. I got Grant Dawson, McKinney as the underdog. I got Maycee Barber, Ziam, Bruno Ferreira. I'm going with Jalen Turner, Iwo, Barianowski. I got Mansur Abdulmalik and Myron Santos. So that's my full card picks for this event. And as far as a parlay of the week, for parlay of the week, I guess I would say go with Myron Santos and Jalen Turner. I think that could hit at a decent rate, but I like more of these money lines, like the Blachowicz, Brandon Moreno. I think that Bruno Ferreira, those money lines are a little bit better than maybe putting Turner in a parlay. But I like Pantoja as well, obviously. And yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, put a comment down below, and let's try to get this video out there. Share it to people if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel. I do breakdowns like this every week for UFC cards, so appreciate you guys, and I'll hear from you guys soon. Peace out.